Hi, and welcome to our Retired Nomad Adventures.
I'm Retired Rick.
And I'm Daphne, and today we're coming to you from the beautiful city of Lisbon, Portugal. And today's video is all about, could we live here? We have sort of a list of criteria that we go through to answer the question, is this someplace that we could live long term?
And when we talk about living long term, we're not talking permanently or for a year. We're just talking 3 months at a time.
Yeah, so it's places we could cycle back to for those longer stays. Okay, so we chose Lisbon because this time of the year we knew we would need to be somewhere kind of in that transitional fall to winter. So it wasn't going to be necessarily a beach destination, and we'd been in Lisbon before and knew that we loved the city, so she already starts out strong. Like, we already are thinking, like, we already know we like Lisbon, and so we thought this would be a wonderful place to spend those sort of transitional month.
Yeah, and for us, since we were already here, it's just easy for us to do and comfortable. So as we're starting our travels, we just wanted to be comfortable and get the first leg out of the way, and we're almost to the end of our first leg.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start. So we have a list of criteria, so we're just going to take you through them. And so the first thing is we look at the size of the city. So the population of Lisbon is big.
I was surprised to hear the population here.
Yeah, so it's 545,000 is the population in the city center of Lisbon. You can expand that out, and it was as high as
on the outskirts. Lisbon and the outskirts is about 3 million people,
which is crazy, right?
I was surprised to. We had to double check.
Even the 545,000 is huge, and especially given the town we just came from only was like 28,000. Right. So like culture shock already. Big difference, yeah. And then how about crime in Lisbon?
It's still crime is still low. We have seen a lot of police officers out and about on the street in groups, not doing anything, but just doing their job. And just talking to the locals and stuff, they don't feel as safe as they did a few years ago, a couple of years ago even. And they would cite instances that happened that pertained to them or that they had seen. So
I think there was a real source and sense of pride at the safety in Portugal, or there is still a sense of pride at the safety in Portugal as a whole. But in Lisbon, I would say that even we were here just a few years ago, and that sense of pride around that was stronger then, and there does seem to be more of a feeling that things aren't as safe as they used to be. But even having said that, it's kind of petty crime stuff, especially in those tourist areas. So we have felt safe, but it's been interesting to talk to locals and get their perspective on things.
See what they really are saying and how they feel. So just interesting.
All right, so the main industry, so how they make their money here, number one is, of course, tourism. But then Lisbon is really like a metropolitan city that's become a hub for financial things, all things financial, and then it's a growing tech hub. So really, lots of people are drawn here for startup businesses and that kind of thing. So very...
and I can see that. I see people walking around in business attire, so I totally see that.
Yeah. Okay, the climate, it's a Mediterranean climate. So it's very, so how do we describe this? So
perfect.
mild, wet winters and hot, dry summers. And we are here from middle of October to middle of November. And about once a week we've had rain.
Yeah, and when you check your app, your weather app, it'll say, cloudy or sunny, and then all of a sudden you have a little bit of rain, like 30% chance of rain at 2 o'clock. And you're thinking, okay, I don't think it, but at 1:30 you start seeing stuff coming in. You're like, it might rain, and it seems like at 2 o'clock it'll start raining.
They're so accurate, and they seem like they just have it. And so I will also say that even when it's raining, like I'll go out with a jacket, and as soon as the rain is over, you don't need the jacket anymore. Like, it's really the climate here is beautiful.
Yep.
Okay. Near water. And so the answer to that, for me specifically, I want to be near water, beaches, lakes, that kind of thing. It just, it feels good to me.
Traditional beaches with sand, lakes with trees and all that, but just a traditional beach or lake.
And kind of when I say, near water, that's what we mean. But having said that, Lisbon is definitely, I mean, so they have the Tagus River that runs right through it, and lots of activity happens around that. You can take, cruises on the river. You can sit and watch the beautiful sunset. There's a promenade. There's all kinds of things to do around the river here, but it's not necessarily kind of what I think of. Yeah. There are some beaches though here. So there's smaller beaches. And then of course you can go to the neighboring cities like Cascais and that kind of thing for beaches. But here, when we say surrounded by water, not necessarily, the answer technically is yes, but it's not exactly what I think of when I think of water.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. How about now here's walkable. Is it walkable?
It's definitely walkable. That's all we do is walk. And that's what's nice is there's several times where we have trying to get back to our Airbnb, and we've come a different way several times and come across different things and different sites. And so it's really nice to be able to walk around here, and then you're in such a confined area that you see a lot of things that you wanted to see that you thought you had to plan a whole day for, but
you just stumble on them. Yeah, and so I think that the city that really speaks to the walkability also. Like it's a very compact city, so all of the little neighborhoods are so close together that you can go out and you can see. You can check off many things on your list in one afternoon of going out and walking, and we are constantly surprised by we'll head out to go do one thing and then find ourselves doing something else because we just keep turning a corner and finding something else that's beautiful.
And there's a lot of times we think we have a lot of steps in because it seems like we've done so much, but we have just a little bit over 10,000 steps.
Yeah, so. When we feel like we've had a really
like
full
20,000.
day. Yeah. And then I would say that it's very walkable, but if you have any mobility issues, there are a lot of hills, and so even though we don't get a lot of steps, our thighs are still getting worked out. So there's lots of hills, and then the cobblestones, there's holes in the sidewalks, there's some narrow sidewalks, the cobblestones can be very slippery, so if you have any mobility issues, you do want to really keep that in mind.
You have to be, just walking, you really have to be careful because even though you're on a sidewalk, the sidewalks are narrow, the cars do come close to you sometimes, and then the sidewalks also slant towards the street. So you're kind of walking on a slant. So if you do have mobility issues, you have to really be careful. With that being said, without mobility issues, you have to be really careful. You have to really pay attention where you're walking, where you're stepping.
Yeah,
because they're not going to be. There could be a hole in the sidewalk where you could really break an ankle, and you would think you'd have to be caution tape up, cones up, anything. Nope.
You just got to watch where you're going.
You just got to watch where you're going.
And I would say the other thing is, so we have, we came with the clothes that we have, we came with the shoes that we have, and so we are in our 5th month, and we realized as soon as we got here that the tread that was left on Rick's shoes was not going to cut it for the Lisbon streets.
Right.
So also, I would say be really mindful of the tread on your shoes when you come here. That'll make a difference when you're walking on those slick surfaces.
Big difference.
Okay, public transportation.
It's everywhere. I mean, we could take advantage of it if we wanted to. We haven't done the metro, but last time we did take the metro a couple of times, and it just takes you wherever you want to go. If if you study the map and you're not afraid to go in and just do it and don't be afraid of being lost. You're gonna figure it out.
And there are train stations, metro stations, tram stations, bus stations everywhere. We've just walked everywhere, so we really haven't used them. The only transportation we've used is Uber, which is
Uber, and it's been great.
Easy.
Wherever we want to go, it just seems like we tend to veer towards Uber because it's familiar and it's easy, and we haven't had a problem yet.
Yeah. Okay, so proximity to the airport. So the airport is 5 miles from the city center. So no matter where you're at in the city, you're close to the airport, and it's a international airport with all the bells and whistles. So it is a very well connected airport, and you're not far from it, no matter where you are.
And then when we say 5 miles, you think, it'll take 5 minutes to get to the airport. It might take you 20-25 minutes to get to the airport just because of traffic and narrow streets and just getting there. So it is close, but it does take a little bit of time to drive.
Yeah. Okay. Now, all right, next criteria, activities. Like, what is there to do? So Lisbon is the capital of Portugal, and so it is sort of the cultural hubbub, right? Like, so there's so much to see and do here. There's all the historical landmarks. There's beautiful I'm trying to think of the word they call them. It starts with an M, but basically lookout points everywhere you go. So I feel like there's tons to do. The number one thing for us was to walk, explore, and to take in all the beautiful sights here.
Sightseeing and just walking around.
Yep. Well, actually, the other thing we did a lot was eat.
Well, so you have to survive.
Well, and thrive with all that. So I think also the food scene here is very big, and so we took full advantage of that. You could, like I said before, take a boat ride on the river. Shopping is very big here. There's nightlife, which we always tell you we don't really participate in, but part of the nightlife here is they have the fado music, and so that's something beautiful to do. And then here, because we are so centrally located and so well connected to the transportation systems, there's all kinds of day trips you can take within just a couple of hours here. So this time we went to Fatima, Obidos, Fatima, and Nazarene. Tomorrow we're going to Sintra and Cascais. And then the last time we were here, we went to this place was crazy. Last time we were here, we went to a place called the Berlingus Islands. And
beautiful.
Yeah, it was like magical, and you just couldn't believe that this place that was so remote and so like the water was so clear. There's this like fort or castle built out in the middle of the water, and then you could go hiking in the mountains, and it was like an hour and a half from this major city. And so I feel like the day trips that you can take from Lisbon are plentiful and so varied depending on what it is that you want to do. Okay, so nearby, that's a definite plus. The food scene, so we talked about that a little bit. So the food scene here, you can get anything you want.
The typical Portuguese meal would be fish, potatoes, salad, and, well, for me, beer.
For me,
beer or wine. They're also big on soups, and there's been a couple restaurants that we ordered the soup, and it's fantastic. Like for €2, you get a whole bowl of soup, and it was really good. So we
talked to one of our tour guides who's Portuguese, and she said that in their homes, at home, a very traditional way to start most of their meals is with some kind of soup, and the soup here has been delicious. They also have a comfort meal. I'm gonna get this wrong, but it's catabras. You can also get shrimpabras. Like you can do it with all kinds of different things. But I got the recipe for it from the same tour guide, and so I even made that at home the other night.
It was good. It was really good.
It was delicious. And so, well, I'm tooting my own horn, but the meal itself, like the meal is delicious. But you can get everything here. There's a big Indian food scene, pasta, lots of Italian restaurants, but mostly we've been eating at the traditional. We mostly we'd be going traditional Portuguese with the fish, or pasta. Yeah. And always something like pasta with shrimp, pasta with seafood, something like that. And that's And I would say in the States, like salmon is, like if you go out to a restaurant, probably salmon is the most common fish you're going to see. And
here it would be sea bass or sea bream. And then there are also monkfish that
we had that monkfish stew.
And monkfish is good too. So
that was really good. I was very surprised. What was that fish I had last month that I was unpleasantly surprised?
Unpleasantly surprised.
Yeah, last month. That tough one.
The cuttlefish?
Cuttlefish. Yeah, so I had cuttlefish last month, and I did not like that. But this month I tried monkfish, and that was good. That was delicious.
It was good.
Okay. Oh, and so then also there's a really big coffee culture here, and the pastries. So like there's bakeries aplenty, and so we also unfortunately stop at those a lot. And we could get like pastel donadas and a cup of coffee, and we sit and just relax and people watch.
And it really is nice being here, having a cup of coffee and a pastry, and not being rushed, not having a place to go, not having a time to meet somebody. It's just you sit until you're tired of sitting, really. One
day we went out for a walk, and the skies just opened up. Like it just started to rain like nobody's business. So we ran until we got into a coffee shop, and we sat for a couple hours and just had coffee and pastries, and people watched and talked.
And what's interesting at all the restaurants here and all the coffee shops, well, I shouldn't say all of them, but all the ones we went to, if you see an open seat, you just sit down. You don't have to wait to be seated or ask if you can have that seat. You just sit down.
Well, we haven't done that yet. We still ask because we just have that ingrained in us, but they look at us like, of course, do you see the table? Just have a seat. Okay, so foods. Oh, and then for drinks, like you get Sagres. There's
Sagres
Superbock
beer.
or Sagres are their main beers. You usually get the Sagres.
Sagres.
And then they have Ginginja, which is like a cherry liqueur. And then they have, of course, their wines. And they really love their green wine, which is a very young wine. It's kind of a white wine with a little bit of sparkles in it.
And Daphne really loves their wine.
My personal preference, though, is their red wine.
Portuguese wine.
Red wine, yeah. Okay, so healthcare. We've talked about healthcare in the last couple of videos, and what we've said is one of the reasons we were sort of initially, one of the many reasons we were initially drawn to Portugal as a place to come to when we first started out on this adventure. We thought we might want to live long-term, permanent long-term here, and one of the reasons was because of their amazing healthcare system. They are ranked, in the top few healthcare systems in the world, and so we know that coming in here, and we've been in some smaller towns, and it has felt really nice to be in a big city where there are state-of-the-art hospitals all around. We walked to the mall one day, and that was 4 miles. And in that 4 miles, I counted 5 major hospitals along the way. So I was like, okay, if something happens, we're going to be well taken care of. There's also lots of clinics and then plenty of pharmacies all over the place. So I feel like, and then also in the hospitals and in the pharmacies, English is widely spoken. And so you'll be able to communicate. And so I feel like this is, if you're worried about medical needs and being taken care of, Lisbon is a great place to be.
Yeah.
All right. Our next section that we look at is what is the cost of living here. And so like everywhere in the world, the cost of living, of course, has gone up over the last several years.
Right.
And then Lisbon is no exception. But we'll talk a little bit about like our costs. So like the Airbnb that we're in right now, this was the least expensive Airbnb of all the Airbnbs we've had over the last 5 months. The Airbnb that we're in is a beautiful one. We gave you a tour of it in last week or the week before's video. So you can take a look at that. But the Airbnb here is $1,600 a month for a really nice 1-bedroom. And that was with a 20% discount.
And it has, if you look at the video, it's a 1-bedroom, but there's also a dining room that kind of, it's like a bedroom. We use it as a work area. So it's another room that it makes it feel bigger.
Yeah, and if you were wanting to rent a place and you were able to sign a year's lease and you wanted to be right in the heart of downtown Lisbon, it looks like you could get that for about $1,200 a month. Yeah. So, not bad, a 1-bedroom apartment in downtown Lisbon. Now, the average full-time salary here is like $1,300 to $1,700 a month. And then because we've seen so many police officers, we were just curious. We were like, well, let's look up a typical police officer's salary.
The typical police officer salary is about $1,300 to $1,700 a month. But investigators or sergeants or higher up, it goes up a little bit higher, $1,600 to about $2,700 a month.
Yeah. So let's see, how about our actual costs? So we had lots of meals out where we got a drink and beautiful meals each. And it's like,
we'd always get, a lot of times we get an appetizer too. We get 2 meals, appetizer, and at least a drink each. And it would run about $35. 35
to
for
45.
An average, 35 to 45 for an average meal.
Our most expensive meal was just under $100, and that was the second meal we had here.
The second meal we had here.
And we were definitely upsold. It was a tourist spot, and so they kind of have some tricks of the trade. But
the meal was really good.
Delicious.
And we were able to bring some home. Some extra food home, and we ate on that for 2 more meals. Two more meals.
So we weren't upset about it. It just was our most expensive meal, and then
it was
really good food. It was really good,
and it was in the tourist area too. So.
Yeah, it was one of those outside ones where they actually have the pictures of the food, and so we knew we were stopping at a tourist trap, but the food was delicious.
Yeah.
Our least expensive meals have been between $20 and $25, and those have been ones where we sort of have shared a sandwich, shared an order of fries, and had a soup each.
Yeah.
Okay, and then at the store, the loaf of bread, like $2.
About $2. About $2. Eggs are about $2.50, and wine is always about $2
for a bottle. And wine when we're out is anywhere from $2.50 to $4.50 a glass, and your beer is, for a bottle of beer, is usually about $2.
Anywhere from $1.20 to $3.
Okay.
Depending on where you go. And actually, our wine cost is about $4 because you always buy 2 bottles.
That's true. Nice. That's true. And then I'll say the coffee and pastries. If we get 2 coffees, 2 pastries, it's about $10. $10. And then the overall vibe here. Okay, so the overall vibe, it's so interesting because it's so hustle and bustly and at the same time very laid back. So I feel like when we're outside and you're walking around, in many areas it's hustle and bustly, and then we'll get to another area and we'll say it feels so peaceful.
Peaceful, yeah.
And then also when you step into a restaurant, any restaurant, like it doesn't matter what restaurant you're in, you're laid back. You are laid back. You can be there as long or as little as you want to be, and it feels very laid back.
If you like to be waited on hand and foot, this is not a place to be, because they're not going to do that. They will serve you and meet your needs. And whatever you ask for, they'll get to. And
happily get it for you. But yeah, you're going to need to ask for it.
You just need to relax and
enjoy.
Just know that if you want something, you ask for it, and that includes the bill. You can sit there for a couple hours.
I would say too, for me, I can't put a number on the amount of times I've said I feel like we're in a movie set, because it's just like it's charming, it's beautiful, it's picturesque, and it doesn't feel real. It's so beautiful.
We've even taken, across the street from us, we have an abandoned building.
Yeah.
And we saw somebody go into it. So we were kind of curious, like, is it abandoned? Is it not? Is someone just checking on it? And we tried to take a picture of the backside of it, because there was a pigeon that
Pigeons
flew
flying.
in.
I mean, the windows are broken on it. There's boards on some of the windows. And then we were looking at the backside of the building, and pigeons flew out of it. And we were like, it's definitely an abandoned building.
So we definitely took a picture of it, and then when we looked at our picture, we're like,
it looks beautiful.
It looks beautiful.
It looks
like a movie set.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. So even an abandoned building in Lisbon is amazingly beautiful. So the overall vibe, I'd say, is very cultured, hustly bustly, and super relaxed.
Yes.
All at the same time. All right, now the big question is, could we live here?
Could we live here? We remember 3 months at a time is what our criteria is. For me, I could not live here in downtown Lisbon for 3 months.
Yeah.
I could definitely visit here a couple times a year, a month at a time, no problem. No problem at all. I think on the outskirts, I would like to try the outskirts of Lisbon for a month and see if that would be an area that we could live at. But from where we're at, downtown Lisbon, I couldn't live here for 3 months.
Same for me. It's too touristy.
I think so.
And here we are, tourists, contributing to the problem. But it's just too busy, and also I'm super glad that we spent a month here. I feel like, and we have been in Lisbon before, and when we were in Lisbon before, we loved it. And as soon as we got here, it felt like home. It felt like a place we're super familiar with and we really love. But to do an extended stay beyond a month, I just think it's too hustle bustly on the outside for me. And then I agree with you. I'd love to come and stay in sort of just on the outskirts in some place that's a little slower pace, and then we could step into Lisbon.
Access to the city.
Yeah. So that'll probably be on our rotation list for a month to check out.
I do love the $5 haircuts.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that. We didn't even talk about that. So we always want to share with you the cost of Rick's haircuts. And so for under $6.
For under $6, I've had 2 haircuts, and I like them.
Looks great.
I like them.
It looks great. Yeah. So we're missing that. We talked to our son again last night, and he just paid $70 for his haircut, and we said, well, with a tip, we were under $6.
When we go back home next week, I know I'm going to need another haircut. It's going to be at least $30, $35. So
Okay, so our overall answer for could we live here is long term. The answer is no. Would we come back for a vacation?
Definitely.
Absolutely. And would we come back to a different part of Lisbon for a scouting trip? Yes, absolutely. All right, so we hope this was helpful if you're considering coming to Lisbon, and we hope that you'll join us next week where we take you through our budget and let you know, did we meet our budget goals for our month in Lisbon. All right, again, thanks for joining us on our Retired Nomad Adventures, and as always,
bye.
Bye.